Hey everyone, Laura here.
Tanya here.
We've been friends for over a decade and worked together for a long time in call centers as agents, quality analysts, managers, and supervisors.
In 2018, we started up this podcast to talk about the batshit bonkers bullshit we see and continue to see in our time at work and at home as consumers.
This episode, however, is unique. We do these deep dive episodes where we talk about corporate scandals like Enron, scams like Theranos, or even cons like Scientology.
This is one of those episodes, so enjoy.
Love your faces.
Smooches.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
This job would be great if it wasn't for the fucking customers.
You're always the stupid it is you take lessons. Just calm down.
Oh, fuck you!
You can't handle the truth.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
In other words, be nice, asshole.
Welcome to another episode of Q is in Cucumber. I'm Laura Mack.
And I'm Tanya Edwards.
So we're going to do a deep dive today, and I'm saving these. We're doing this on December 12th. I'm going to debate whether we're going to save this one for your reconstruction.
Yeah.
So we get quite a few new listeners with these deep dives. So if you are a new listener, welcome.
Hi there.
So our podcast, this is not a normal podcast for us. We usually share stories about our time in customer service, and we share our listener stories as well. So that's the format of our normal show. But we also do, at times, these deep dive episodes. And right now, we're recording them. We're going to do a couple, probably in a row. But that is because our wonderful and lovely Miss Tanya, unfortunately, has breast cancer. And she is currently going through chemo. And then she's going to have the double mastectomy.
Yep.
So this is doing the deep dives are to put out while she is recovering.
Yeah, because I'm not going to be able to go anywhere for about 2 or 3 weeks, they said.
So that is the format of our normal show. But this is a deep dive. In the past, we covered Enron. We covered scams.
Yeah, Scientology,
Theranos, like the Theranos story.
It was off the chain. But
Oh my
I'm still
God.
stuck on the Scientology. I'd be watching
Yeah.
that damn stupid channel all the time. Like I'm stupid.
But this story is a little bit different for us. It's a story about a drug website, and it's more of a criminal enterprise. But the way this dude ran it,
Enterprise.
he ran it like a fucking business, like a legit business.
That's how Ghost does on Power.
Right. So exactly. So first of all, I tried picking a book called The Black Edge. That about halfway through, I got super excited and I wanted to know what the end was, like what consequences that dude faced. And really almost no consequences. And I didn't want to cover something that has like a completely unsatisfying ending, right? So
She was quite upset.
I was very upset. And then I started listening to Billion Dollar Whale, which the beginning of that book really hooks you in, right? It's talking about this elaborate birthday party that this dude got thrown for himself. And it lists off the celebrities, Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese, Jamie Foxx, like the list just went on and on and on of this crazy party, right? And that kind of hooks you in. But then they start listing off all the characters in the book, and it's just like, oh my.
Okay, so I ordered the book, and it's taken like 2 weeks to get here.
Why?
I don't know. I ordered it on Amazon. I was probably high when I did it. So I chose turtle delivery.
Turtle delivery.
But it'll be here soon. So, but I ordered just because I wanted to read it because it sounded really interesting to me.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, it
worst comes to worst, I'll read it when, I can't do
I
shit.
have a feeling
so.
actually physically reading it is different than the audio.
Yeah,
book.
especially if they're not going through the whole list of characters and shit. And I'm not gonna stick around for that. Get me to the book.
Yeah.
So
what they do is, or what the author does is, they introduce a character and then they give you a little bit of background on that character and kind of what they're about.
And I'd much rather read a book than listen to a book, because if I try to listen to a book, I'll go right to sleep.
Yeah.
I'll get past the first page and just be knocked out. So, yeah.
So the book I finally landed on is a book called American Kingpin. Here is the summary. It's by Nick Bilton. Here's the summary of this book. Nick Bilton's American Kingpin recounts the incredible Silk Road saga, in which a former Boy Scout metamorphosed into an anti-government drug baron who evaded top government agents for 2 years. Bilton pieces the events that led to Ross Ulbricht's eventual capture in painstaking and candid detail. This book was really interesting. So the Silk Road was a website that he started on Tor, the dark web browser.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to basically be the Amazon of drugs.
You had Prime, you get your shit delivered for free.
Kind of.
Okay, so what kind of drugs? Like
Everything.
Like you needed, a kilo of coke or
Yeah.
Shut the.
Heroin, meth.
This was on the dark
coke,
web, right?
Ecstasy. And yeah, and we'll get to everything else he sold, which is insane. But basically, it was a website that you could go to and purchase Bitcoins and then use the Bitcoins, because those are untraceable. They're as untraceable as cash.
Right.
Right?
Right.
There you go.
I mean, that's smart.
It
That's
was
super
but then
smart.
Other drug dealers can sell on your site. That's how it
Shut up! It's like Etsy.
Yes. It's even like, it's like Amazon, because people sell stuff on Amazon. Yeah. I know Tanya's looking at me like, what the fuck?
Why haven't I thought of these things?
Oh my God.
I'm still a little high, so really.
There you go.
But why? I mean,
But why?
I'm
So
gonna tell David about this
it's
when I get home tonight.
I'm telling you, for me, honestly, he kind of reminds me of the real world version of Dexter.
The serial killer guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, because the world knew him as this super, polite boy.
Right.
But in his real, world,
Right.
he was this drug kingpin. He really was. So,
I'm still mad that I didn't think of it. You know how many dope guys I used to know that if I would have said something like this, they'd have been all fucking over it.
of course.
I would have made $1 million gazillion.
Mhm. So, we're not going to do
I'm not
that, by
gonna
the way.
do it. I'm too old.
When the NSA
I'm
listens to
tired
this,
and I have cancer and I just can't.
you're like, I don't have the patience.
I don't have the energy. Hey, is this guy still free? Is he out and about?
Oh, no. No, no, no.
I'm going to be his pen pal in prison. We're going to come up with a better scheme.
So I will say, I highly recommend this book to everyone. It's a good book. And it's kind of like, do you remember that movie, Law Abiding Citizen?
Yes.
Okay. If you remember, at the beginning of that movie, for me at least, I was rooting for the quote bad guy in the story. Like, you kind of root for Gerard Butler and you don't want Jamie Foxx
Right.
to do it.
Right.
Right. That's kind of how this book, at a certain point, you feel like, fuck you, cops.
Right.
I know how you.
Yeah, because that whole movie, you're just like, oh, get him, Jesus. Oh, you're going to kill him for real.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So this book really just, it does that insanely well.
Because he's a good I don't want to say an underdog then, but he's, in a way he is, because he's sticking it to the man.
Yeah. But the book is really just, it's got short little chapters. Like, the chapters aren't long, but there's a lot of them. But it's broken down so easily. It's really good. It's really good.
Okay, well, maybe I'll have to do that one too.
American Kingpin by Nick Bilton. All right. So Ross Ulbricht was born in Texas in March of 1984. His parents said that as a toddler, they knew, like, he was freakishly smart. He understood things well beyond his toddler years. When he became, like, I think they said he was in 3rd grade. He was able to do math problems that his parents couldn't even understand the question.
Oh, geez.
Like, he was kind of like a prodigy, really. And they also said that he was just a kid that had common sense. They were like, we never had to tell him,
don't stick that butter knife in there.
Right. look both ways before you cross the street. He just seemed to just innately have, like,
he had an old soul. He did this before.
Right. He just had common sense. But he was, even though he was like this prodigy person, he clearly, like, he was still a normal kid, which sometimes those kids are like closed off or super nerdy or whatever. No, not really. He was just like chasing girls, and
he's probably a sociopath or something.
I don't know what he is. Honestly, when you read the book, I don't think so. I think he's just an asshole. So, he was a normal kid in high school, but he loved reading books on political theory, existentialism, and quantum mechanics.
Oh, you're normal.
Okay.
Normal reading list.
Now, here's the thing about this guy, that when you realize that he is a drug kingpin, you're like, wait just a fucking minute. When they say a Boy Scout, they mean as an adult.
Oh.
Okay? Because he will rescue animals. He'll stop in the middle of a conversation with you if he sees a little old lady about to cross the street, and he'll run over and, like, help her with her bags and walk her across the street.
Maybe he's one of those people that thinks I can be an asshole all I want and break the law all I want as long as I do good things. One cancels out the other.
I'm not sure, but I mean, he was like this before.
Yeah.
Some people thought it was an act, but they realized after spending more time with him, like, oh, he's just this guy.
Oh.
And here's the thing I think is really interesting. He doesn't curse. He says things like golly and geez and fudge.
You better have my fudging money by Thursday, or I'm going to break your donkey butt legs. Yeah.
Like, okay. Like, this drug kingpin wouldn't curse. That's fucking hilarious to me.
I don't know if me and him could get along then.
No, I think, no, you'd have punched him. So he got a degree in physics and then went to Penn State to get his master's. And while he was at Penn State, he met a woman named Julia Vi. Julia turns out to basically be his, like, the love of his life.
Like
kind
the Bonnie to his Clyde.
Kind of. Kind of. So she's kind of got a super sad story. While she was unpacking her bags in her dorm at Penn State, she gets a phone call and she finds out her mom has died.
Oh.
Like, just like, whoa, okay. So she seemed to have this like super sad backstory, and she just needed some direction or somebody, like she needed something, and she got to him. But she met him at an African drum circle, which apparently he was like super into. Okay.
I'm not even into that.
Like, okay. And they started, at first she was like, go away, because he looked homeless.
Oh.
Like, he was scruffy, he was dirty. She was just like, ew, go away. But then she ran into him again, and he was in clean clothes and was like a little bit, I think he was shaved.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, he asked her out, and she was like, oh, okay. But then she goes to his place, and she really finds out this motherfucker is cheap as hell. And he tells her, like, he's living in this mildewed basement for free with a bunch of guys. And she's like, why? Like, why would you? He's like, why pay for an apartment when it's free? Like,
well,
okay.
I mean, health is one reason. Just, you don't want to get like black mildew lung.
Right. He tells her, like, there are certain things I do just to see if I can. Like, he tells her that he challenged himself to only take showers for a month in cold water, not hot water, just to see if he could do it. And he was like, yeah, after a while, you just get used to it. And it's like, okay. So at a certain point, she sees these 2 trash bags in his basement. She's like, what's that? He's like, one's clean clothes and one's dirty clothes. And she's like, oh, no. And she took him out to go shop for clothes. Years later, she's like, she sees him and she's like, I bought you those jeans 5 years ago and you're still wearing them. There were 2 things about him at this time that really kind of jumped out. Well, I guess it's really, we already talked about the drum circle. That's something he was like obsessed with. He was also obsessed with libertarianism. He's one of these assholes that truly believes the government shouldn't be involved in anything at all, right? But his main point was the war on drugs. And I don't disagree with him in a lot of cases. Like, his point was drugs would be safer and they would be, regulated if we just
a lot of people
legalized
feel
them.
like that.
Right.
A lot of people feel that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not that far-fetched of an idea. Well, him and Julia finally go back to Texas. He tried to start a few businesses and none of them really worked. And he went to this party one night and all of his friends were talking about, oh, I started this business and oh, I'm working at this law firm and blah, blah, blah. And he just felt like this total failure. And this is like 2011-ish. So the economy just was still in the shit. Right. So him and Julia get into the show Breaking Bad. And he thought, like, this is never going to happen in real life. But he did daydream about a website where you could buy and sell drugs, like on the dark web. But those 2 things, the technology didn't really exist to how to pay for them without tracing. But then, like a year later, Bitcoin, he was like, oh, now I got this shit. Right? But he's not a computer programmer. So he was kind of learning on the fly, and he asked a old high school friend to help him like set it up. He made some really funny mistakes at certain points. Like at one point, every time somebody made a purchase on the site, think about it like this. It's a funnel, and you've got the bottom of the funnel plugged.
Uh-huh.
Every time something goes in the funnel at the top, the bottom opens up as well. So like everything was just kind of flowing out.
Or was it just going anywhere? Just, out
just
in the...
having a grand
out
old
in the
time.
internets.
Exactly. Which was funny. But he wasn't a computer programmer. But he decides to do this, and he starts growing his own mushrooms, right? And he eventually lets Julia in on the secret, but he blindfolds her and takes her to this space that he rented to do this because he doesn't want her to know or to really be involved if he's ever caught, right? So he sets all this up and he launches it, and he named it the Silk Road, basically after the trade route, the silk trade during the Han Dynasty in China. So that's where he landed, or that's why he landed on that name. So he goes to a couple of forums online, like libertarianism forums or forums. He goes on these forums. He's like, hey, have you guys heard about the Silk Road? You can buy blah, blah, blah. Right? So next thing you know, people are coming to the site and they're starting up accounts and they're buying and selling, and it just kind of explodes. The way they make it sound almost instant. That it was like, what the fuck?
Just took the fuck off. Like,
oh, yeah.
Hey.
You were like,
you know you could sell that online now.
And I mean, drug dealers went nuts. They went, opioids, meth, heroin, cocaine, hallucinogenics, like everything. And he really, early on, he really seemed to just morph into this megalomaniac. He truly believed that this experiment he was doing would convince all of the governments across the world to legalize all drugs. And one day he would be lauded as a hero and celebrated and all this.
You're gonna get some sort of fucking Nobel Peace Prize. And...
Yeah, like, okay.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen, Skippy.
It's just like, but he really did believe this, right? So Julia started to get concerned. She was like, okay, when she realized, she's like, okay, weed, fine. Hallucinogenics, mushrooms, fine. Right. But when it came to like cocaine, meth, heroin, she was like, wait just a fucking minute, right?
This is not right.
And her point, I thought this was hilarious. Her point was, what happens if somebody like overdoses and dies from this shit? Like, you facilitated that.
Right.
And he basically tells her, well, it is just like Amazon where you can leave reviews. And if, something bad happens with your review, you're shut out and you can't sell. She's like, how are they going to tell you that it was bad if they're dead? You idiot.
I mean, if you notice that their account's not been used for a while, then you can either assume one of two things: they got clean or they died.
Exactly. I was like, oh my God. So what really freaked her out was the day he came up to her with his little laptop, and he was so excited because somebody posted guns for sale. And he was like, look.
The ATF involved.
Right. And she was.
DEA.
Oh, it's everybody. And she's like, what the fuck? What are you doing? And he was so excited. Like,
that's growth, baby. That's growth.
Yeah. He really was. Where you were like, huh. Okay. Gotcha. So she goes to New York just to get
the fuck away from his crazy ass.
Right, just to get a little break. And she
I mean, was he at least living like a kingpin? Was he still living in a mildew basement, picking his clothes out of a garbage bag?
Until the day he was arrested, pretty much. Yeah.
What did he do with all his money?
It just sat there.
What the... fuck, man. I would be mad. That's what would piss me off.
Thank
the
you.
other shit, I would not. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not spending any of this fucking money.
No. Not
Give
really.
it to me, you dumbass.
It was ridiculous. So, that's jumping ahead a little bit. She tells her friend about this, which is a huge, it's a violation of trust.
Right.
Like, and they get in she comes back to Texas with her, and they get in some kind of drunken argument, and this bitch posts about it on Facebook. And now he's livid with his girlfriend. Like, I cannot believe you told someone. He calls up the girl and he's like, I beg, and he's crying. Please don't. He deletes she tagged him in the comment.
Uh-huh.
He deleted it. But he was like, please don't tell anybody this. And she felt bad. So she was like,
give me some money. You want? Yeah, I would have bribed him. So I know you're making a shit ton of money and you're definitely not spending it, you raggedy bastard.
Mhm.
So you need to give me some money.
So he pretty much breaks it off with Julia and moves temporarily to Australia. And his sister is living there.
Probably living in a fucking Aborigine hut there.
I know, right?
Because he challenged himself. I challenge you to give me some money.
I bet you wouldn't be able to give me $20 million.
I bet you wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong.
Ha! I scoff at you, sir.
So, he goes to Australia and he starts to build his network, and he starts to get employees because now he needs.
Fuck off.
I'm serious, because he needed
He's handing
help.
out fucking W-2s and shit.
No, obviously not W-2s.
No.
But I mean, he literally, not just dealers and sellers and all that stuff. It's actual employees.
Fucking marketing and a webmaster and an IT guy.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Shut up.
And his webmaster IT guy was a guy who went by the nickname Variety Jones.
Oh.
And he broke into the site. He hacked into the site just to see, because he thought it was a hoax. Or not a hoax, but he thought it was
Like a setup?
Yeah. So he went in just to see, is this for real? And it was super easy to break in. So after he realizes, oh, this is real, he reaches out to Ross and he's like, your security sucks. You need some help. And the two end up becoming super duper close.
Steve Gates and Woz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Of the truck world.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It really was Jobs and Woz. Oh my
Well then.
God.
Okay.
So, but here's the thing that they this comes back to bite him in the ass at a certain point. Variety Jones tells him, I need you to really understand the possible consequences of what you are doing. You could be charged with the Kingpin law, right?
Yeah.
And he lays it all out. So later he can't say oh, I was just a naive kid and I didn't know.
Right.
It's right there in this chat conversation.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
Pretty much for VJ, they end up calling him VJ. VJ ends up being his mentor. And then at a certain point, a reporter with Gawker saw it and they wrote an article about it and it exploded even more.
And this has been going on for a couple years now, right?
This went on for 2 years.
Why can't I fucking think of things like this?
I know, right? So he didn't think it was real. He thought, okay. But what was interesting was he put on one of their forums on the website, hey, is anybody willing to talk to me for this article?
Bunch of fucking hopped up.
Yeah. And a couple people did.
A tweaker will, because they like to brag about shit.
Exactly. But what's interesting, Ross did. The owner of the site
was like, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, let's go ahead and chat, like, but he felt he was so brazen because there's not a way to really trace him at this point. Like, there's no way to catch him. So he's like, sure, I'll talk to you. Tanya's face is just like, shut the fuck up.
I mean, he's so full of himself with all of this that he's willing to just go on record and talk to people about his drug lording.
Even before he was caught.
Is he special in some sort of way?
I don't think so. Even before he was caught, here was the part in the book that I was like, really? The number of people that were just willing to talk to the cops openly about purchasing drugs on the site. Like, they go to this dude's house, like the post office had intercepted a package, like through customs, like, is this real? They opened it up and there was drugs. So they go to the house it was addressed to, and the guy's not there, but his roommate is. And they're like, do you know anything about this? And he's like, oh yeah, it's from the Silk Road. Come on in. Yeah, we've ordered from there all the time.
We have a punch card.
Yeah, we have a punch card. Buy 9, get the 10th for free. Like, what the fuck? But I think their thought process was they're not going, because it was such a like this thing that caught their attention or that they intercepted was literally one pink pill. It was an ecstasy. They're like, they're not going to arrest
Who just buys one ecstasy?
Mm-hmm.
One ecstasy. Come on. You're just sitting in the house doing X by yourself? That's gross.
That's weird.
You fucking weirdo.
Like,
no wonder you don't have any
okay.
friends and you're hanging out on the internet all day ordering drugs.
They were just really, it's just kind of shocking how many people are just willing to talk to them. So we're going to go ahead. Tanya has an appointment. So we're actually going to, usually we do one giant recording and then I split it up, but we're going to have to do this on multiple days. So I'm going to say that's the end of the first episode.
All right.
And we'll pick back up hopefully tomorrow, but if not, if Tanya's not feeling up to it, we'll go from there. So until next time, I'm Laura Mack.
And I'm Tanya Edwards.
Love your faces.
Smooches.
Like what you hear? Rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcasting platform. And follow us on our Facebook page by searching Q as in Cucumber. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram by searching QAIC_Lara, LARA, and QAIC_Tanya, TANYA. Don't forget to check out our other show, hosted by me and Jessica James, called The Parent Memoirs. And we want to hear from you. Share your stories by emailing us at qasIncucumber@yahoo.com, and you might just hear your stories on a future episode. Love your faces.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.